Hello guys, welcome back to my channel. It's Joffy Noodle Legs here today with Sullivan. Hey mate, he's sitting by me here. I'm here today with another horror top 10. Today I'm going through my top 10 favourite Gothic horrors, modern horrors. So I'm excluding from this top 10 any sort of old Universal films or any sort of Hammer films. I will do those separately because they're like from a different sort of era of horror movies. I think some of them might look really sort of dated up against some of these because obviously now technology's moved along and obviously things look a lot more lavished than they did back in the day. But they're still amazing Gothic films back then. With obviously the great stars of the time, Bela Lugosi, Boris Karloff, and in the Hammer films with Christopher Lee and Peter Cushing. So they deserve a video of their own. So I'm just going to go through my top 10 favourite Gothic horrors of like more sort of modern day horror. So this is going to be stuff that's probably going to be probably 90s upwards, I would say. So before we get to the top 10, I've got two honourable mentions. First of all, it's a TV series, which was made by the BBC. Came out a year or so ago, and it's called The Terror. Now, this is a really, really cool story. It's basically based on like these two ships back in the sort of old times. These are all going to be costume sort of drama films. It's based back in the time, and they were just it was the time of discovery, and they'd gone to the North Pole or the Antarctic, and the two ships have got stuck in there in the ice, and the two ships they're all sort of survival sort of horror there, and there's a creature that's sort of killing them off, and it's a really sort of gripping sort of series. It's very similar. I suppose if I've got to compare it anything, I would compare it probably to John Carpenter's The Thing. It's that sort of suspense sort of thing, crew start dying or someone starts seeing the creature and all this kind of thing that happens. And then there's like a mad sort of Eskimo sort of woman and stuff in it. Watch it and find out. It's quite of a slow burn because it's a TV series. I believe they've made a second one. I've not seen that. I've only ever seen the first one, but I did really, really enjoy it. I thought it was really cool. That's an honourable mention. The last honourable mention is a film I've talked about before on my channel, and it is a Victorian serial killer film, and it's the Limehouse Golem, starring Bill Nighy. This is a really, really cool film. It's got that real sort of dark, sort of foggy, misty London. There's quite a few films like that in here, because obviously that's the Gothic sort of style. It's that's what I would class as a Gothic film. It's something that's got that sort of, it's a costume sort of drama, and it's got that kind of sort of like really old Victorian sort of appeal with sorry about this guys, I'm just moving the camera a bit closer. It's got that sort of costume sort of drama, because that's when when you think about the Gothic style, you think of that old Victorian sort of lace and misty foggy nights with sort of silhouette sort of like backdrops, and that's kind of what I would describe as a Gothic sort of story, and setting. So most of these have got that sort of setting. So there, the Limehouse Golem. It's a really, really cool film. So we'll crack on with the top 10. And some of these I have had in my top 10s before, some I haven't. In at number 10 is one that I have had in before, and it's with Daniel Radcliffe. And this is The Ghost Story of the Woman in Black. Really cool film. It's got a beautiful Gothic style about the film. It's shot amazingly. It's brilliant costumes, great atmosphere, extremely scary. Most sort of Gothic horror was ghost stories, to be honest. Obviously, they had monster films, but mostly were ghost stories back then. So this is a ghost story about, obviously, that I've told you before, about the woman that dies, the woman in black. He, Mr. Kit there, he's sent there to clear up the paperwork, and he starts experiencing seeing the ghost, and it's all stories around the house and stuff. So really good film though, The Woman in Black. That's number 10. Number 9, it's a strange one. This is a Del Toro film, and this is Crimson Peak. Again, it's another cool film. It's about this guy and this woman that meet and fall in love, and she moves into the house that he lives in, and it's full of like sort of ghosts, and it's a typical ghosts and ghouls sort of film, and there's lots of sort of jump scares. It's beautifully filmed with beautiful costumes, and it's a really, really cool film. I mean, Del Toro films they always look exceptionally amazing, and this one is no different. And it's got that sort of real, again, that very strong sort of Gothic style to it. It's fantastic. Crimson Peak, number 9. Number 8 is a film with John Cusack, and this is called The Raven. Now, this is based upon Edgar Allan Poe. John Cusack plays Edgar Allan Poe, and it's about a serial killer that's going around killing people the same ways that it's been written in his books and his stories, his poems. So any sort of ways that he's killing today. Obviously, because Edgar Allan Poe is one of the famous sort of literature, sort of horror writers of that sort of old Victorian times. He was renowned for American author. So that's what that's about, and it's really, really cool. And again, it's another costume drama. It looks stunning and amazing. It's really cool. Based in America, obviously, because Edgar Allan Poe is American, and so it's a really, really cool sort of Gothic style horror film. Really cool. Number 7 is a monster flick. Obviously, there are loads of monster flicks based around the sort of Gothic era. This one's really cool, and it's The Wolf Man, which is a great film. It's got who's in this one? Oh, it's Del Toro. It's got Anthony Hopkins, Emily Blunt. It's a good strong cast, and it is based on the classic Wolf Man film, but it's shot beautifully, and the costumes are sort of like exact. And then when you get to sort of like see the wolf running over like the sort of like moonlit London, and put that Tower Bridge and that, it's such a sort of classic sort of Gothic image on that film, and it's such a cool film. I really enjoyed this. It got a little bit of flack, and I don't understand why, because I actually really enjoyed it. It's quite slow, it's quite long, but I really enjoyed the story. I thought it was really well made, and I think it done the story of the Wolfman justice. That's in at number 7. Number 6 is a Tim Burton film with Christina Ricci and Johnny Depp, and this is the classic story of Sleepy Hollow. Of course, I had to have this in there. We all know about the Headless Horseman, and again, it's a classic Gothic story based around Sleepy Hollow. So it's really cool, and you probably know the story because you've probably seen the film. But this is quite cool. It's full of that Tim Burton sort of style of photography and sort of music, and it's a very Gothic looking film, and it's a very sort of strong sort of Gothic theme throughout the whole film. It's really, really cool. That's at number 6. Number 5, I'm sticking with Tim Burton again and Johnny Depp, and this is Sweeney Todd. Again, it's a very Gothic story about the demon barber that sort of killed a lot of his customers, and I think a lot of they were sort of cut and put into pies and stuff like that. And this is almost like a musical, I believe, if I remember right. I've not seen this for a number of years, but I have it in my collection. It's a steelbook version, and I remember enjoying it, and it was quite gory, but it was really, really cool. It's actually really good sort of. It's got that again, that very strong Tim Burton look about the film, and which is again a lot of his films are very Gothic-y, even not horror films like Edward Scissorhands and these films like that all have a Gothic feel to them, and they tend to have a lot of the same cast as well. It's normally um, Helen Bonham Carter and Johnny Depp, but they're great films. They are really, really cool. That's a really cool Gothic sort of horror film. That's Sweeney Todd at number 5. Johnny Depp must love Gothic horror because he's in at number 4 as well. This one is one of my favourite films, and I've talked about it loads of times. It's the serial killer film about Jack the Ripper, and it's From Hell. And again, it's such a strong sort of Gothic feel to this film in London, Victorian London. Also stars Robbie Coltrane, and a great strong cast in this. And it is, again, a sort of perception of Jack the Ripper, who he was and stuff. It's a quite deep story. It's quite gory, and obviously Johnny Depp plays the detective who's investigating the murder scenes, and he falls in love with one of the ladies of the night, if you like to say. It's a really, really cool film. If you've not seen From Hell, excellent sort of film. So we're down to the top 3. Number 3 is a classic story, classic Gothic story, and it's a modern version of it, and it's Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. Now this one stars Kenneth Branagh as Victor Frankenstein, and Robert De Niro as the monster. It's a great film. It sort of came out around the same sort of time when the Dracula sort of remake came out, and because there was a sort of like that around that time that there was a lot of sort of good remakes sort of like being made, or not necessarily remakes, revisions, and different ways of portraying the books. Because with films like Frankenstein and Dracula, I can't look at them as remakes. They're not remakes because they're all based on the book. So the person's different version of a book. A remake to me is something that's solely like a film that's just been remade again. This is different. It's just based on a book, and this is really cool. Really, really enjoyable film. I will do a review on this, I think, on my channel. I think it needs looking at. So this will get a review on my channel. That's in at number 3. Number 2 is the other classic, obviously, Bram Stoker's Dracula. This is the 1990s version with obviously Gary Oldman as Dracula, Anthony Hopkins, Keanu Reeves, Winona Ryder. The cast goes on and on and on in this film. It's such a good film, and obviously Gary Oldman's Dracula is absolutely legendary. It's probably one of the best portrayals, if not the best portrayal of Dracula, and it looks stunning. It's beautifully shot, amazing sort of like colorations and style to the film, and some great effects, and there's some good gore in there as well. That's Dracula number 2. So number 1 is completely different to all those, and it's one of my favourite films of all time, mostly of modern times, and it's the one that I got from my son Lemon Lord a few weeks ago. So my favourite Gothic horror film is The Witch. And this is based in the 1600s in America, about a family that get banished from the town. They try setting up on their own little farm, but they've got no skills to do it, and they've moved to a piece of land, and their farm is failing, but the piece of land they've moved on to also is resided by a witch who sort of torments the family. And it's got a real strong sort of Gothic style about the film, because it's very quite medieval sort of looking, and it's got that sort of really bleak look to it. And so that is my favourite Gothic horror film. This is the second sight edition that my son got me. It's an amazing film. I just love it. I've watched it since I've had this edition. I've watched it 3 times already. But yeah, it's got like a real downbeat sort of gloomy feel to the film, which gives it that sort of Gothic feel. And of course the costumes and the sort of like of the time in America and stuff like that it was pretty much spot on. and the way, because it's spoken in Old English, also gives it that sort of a feel to it, to make it actually feel real. And it is a really cool film. So that is my top 10 favorite Gothic horror films, of like modern sort of horror films. Like I said, I will do a top 10 on uh, older films, including some of the Hammer films and some of the Universal films, because I can't neglect them. But I can't put them in with this, because they, you know, if I put in there The Bride of Frankenstein or something with Boris Karloff, it would look a little bit out of place, and the people think, well, that's not even scary or anything anymore. But back in the day, they were really scary, and they are cool. But I think it deserves to be made on a video of its own when it comes to those kind of films. And that's how I like it, and it just gives me another excuse to do another top 10, because I love doing them. They're so cool. And I really hope you enjoy watching them, and hopefully get a few titles that you haven't seen, maybe some that you have that you feel like I might revisit that, or some you just say, nah, it wasn't my thing. But that's fine, each to their own, you know. A lot of my friends' movies I don't like, you know. Even some of my horror friends, some of the movies they really like, I'm like, no, I don't like that. It's not for me. But that's what's great and wonderful about the movie sort of like hobbies, that everyone has different tastes and everyone can bring something new to the table, I think. Anyway, so what did you think of those films? Any of those you fancy watching? Drop some comments down below and let me know what you think, and see if there's any other sort of top tens or things you'd like me to cover. Um, I will do my best to do so. But that is my top 10 favourite modern horror, sort of Gothic horror films. Um, it's a genre of film I do really like. I do like a good costume drama if it's done well, like films like The Awakening, which I love. You know, it's all like a sort of really cool costume drama. Pan's Labyrinth, all these sort of films that are really cool. So go and check out a few channels for me if you can, please. Go and check out Horror Hands, check out the Horror Geek, Man v Film, um, Russell's RS Designs, Sarah of Horror, and Pizzawell. Go and check his channel out. Him and Jeremy. His channel's great. And go and check out, of course, Horror in Todge. Until next time, guys, you look after yourselves, look after one another, and I really hope that I'll see you all soon.